So welcome everybody. We're gonna get started with our April 15th board meeting, tax day. Hopefully everybody's not concerned about getting any taxes in today. Yeah, so I'm gonna cover our agenda. Let me pull this up. All right, so we're going to call to order at 6:33. And as always, we have our board docs agenda for our public to follow along. And also we have our minutes from a previous meeting are also there to be publicly viewed as we talk through those. So we're going to start off by going through our minutes and our public comment. So each board meeting, we allow 3 minutes for public comment per person. And we're actually going to talk a little bit more about our public comments here in our agenda. And I know we have a couple of interested board members in attendance, so I'll give some time for them to reintroduce or introduce themselves for the first time. Then we're going to move over to the administration team's report. We have an April board report to go through, the calendar for the 25-26 school year, start and end times for elementary and secondary campus, intriguing. Budget discussion, always very important. Touch on any updates on goals for the 24-25 school year. I believe Karen is on. I thought I saw her pop up. Update from the PTO. Finance update, monthly update from our treasurer, Kevin. Update from the committees, including any board updates, our goals and progress. I know we have, succession planning, and we've got interested candidates, could talk about that some more. And then Stacy will close us out from a president's perspective. Did I miss anything? Okay, so then we will go into our public comment section. So I will, I guess, open up to Bash in the room if you had anything else to say to the board as far as interest in.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, thank you for letting me come in person. This kind of feels very honored. I am Bashrat Usmanova, go by Bash. I am an experienced CPA, done many years in public accounting with PwC, professional services firm in the audit practice. And after 12 years of fulfilling career, I decided to finally, it was time to go ahead and transition to a more stable and laid back job. So now I'm in risk management with Verizon. And that's been one of the best career decisions I've made for myself and for my family and for my children. So I'm really enjoying that. And I've also joined the PTO as treasurer this school year. My daughter was admitted to first grade, so we've been really enjoying our time. My interest is really stems from my interest to help. Honestly, this is a much smaller institution than a publicly funded. It is publicly funded, but in a sense, like a regular public elementary school. So for me, just to be able to bring any expertise or any help or any contacts, that's really the reason that I'd like to join. Obviously, it's a lot of time commitment, so I appreciate that and recognize that. And we can talk about what that looks like and what the transition looks like if I'm the right candidate. But really, I'm here to help even if I'm not part of the board, just to be able to helpful to the school because it's ultimately benefiting my child and all our kids, right? And I hope that this is a lasting relationship because I also have two little ones at home. So a little bit of a selfish motive there too, in a sense. So yeah, looking forward to partnering with all of you and working for many years to come, hopefully.
Awesome, thank
Thanks.
you. We also have Simon. I know Simon, you're able to come off mute. He was interested as another board candidate that came in over the past week, but I know he's on travel. Simon, are you able to speak?
Hello?
Oh, is that you? Hi,
Yeah,
Simon.
sorry, hi. I was told the video had to be off, and so you can hear me? That's great.
Yes.
I am traveling. It's 12:30 here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I'm interested to join. Obviously, it's, reason is for my son to get in first and foremost. That's just to put it out there. I have different board experience from being on homeowners boards and condo boards on both sides as a lawyer and as a tenant or owner of one. Um, I'm happy to help in any way that I can, and my skills allow me to, as a attorney licensed in New Jersey since 2003 and 2005 in Florida, and as a licensed realtor. I moved to Florida to service lending company corporation as an in-house counsel, and then I took my bar exam and have stayed in Florida. So I have financial, legal, and real estate experience, which I'm happy to help in. I've helped various charities in any capacity, from forming the 501c docs and filing them and getting them approved, to various broad range of experiences. So I'm happy to answer any questions and move forward. If I can help, I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks, Simon.
Yep. Thank you.
Any other public comment? I have one email to read about, if you have public comment, those on the Zoom, if you could put your name in the chat. If you haven't. In the meantime, I'll read. This is from Jennifer Walker. The title is Gratitude. With this letter, I'd like to share my gratitude to the IMO community. As my student graduates next month and we complete our family's journey at IMO, I want to personally thank every individual who has given a piece of your heart to our school. I am deeply grateful for each of you for embracing all the challenges we have faced together and for our continued dedication to growing our school. My student began IMO journey in 5th grade. The Montessori environment was very different to us and was the beginning of our student's path to success. He blossomed and grew and became engaged in learning. The teachers that year fed his soul through whole child learning, and education became enjoyable. The next few years, we found his place in the IMO community right before the world unexpectedly shut down. Fortunately, through the pandemic, we continue to be blessed with the best school family who really connected with our virtual students and continued academics by adapting daily while also enthusiastically emerging technology and Montessori teachings. Returning in-school learning, our teachers welcomed the students back with open arms and heart. The transition was a challenge, but our staff and teachers are more than willing to go above and beyond to join both adolescent development and the high school academic curriculum. The school experiences have been full of change over the last 8 years, but what hasn't changed is the dedication and deep connection the IMO community brings to the school and students every day. I'm so thankful for every single person who has counseled, encouraged, advocated, assisted, and supported my IMO students throughout the years. To the teachers, staff, and administration, I have so much gratitude for your efforts. Every year you have really gone above and beyond. You inspired the students to enjoy school even when there is so much uncertainty in the world. You continuously handled all the change with flexibility and care. You created an open environment by being approachable for students who need extra support. You help students succeed and may not have been able to without you. You've made a difference every day. My heart is full of thanks. To the whole IMO community, I wish you the best in the coming years. You are blessed to be included in this community, and I will miss our IMO family as we begin our new chapter. I appreciate the foundation and care that you provided my student. He's really on his next journey, and I look forward to seeing what his future holds. With profound gratitude, Jennifer Walker.
Thank you,
Jennifer's on, yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Jennifer.
thank you very much, Jennifer. It's a wonderful perspective to share for that journey. Especially, we talk about like students coming from outside of Montessori into Montessori at that pivotal age, that 4, 5, 6th grade age. So important for us to hear that story. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to share that with us. All right, so that moves us to, if there's no, did you see anything else in the chat? Okay, that moves us to reviewing our meeting minutes from last meeting, was with March 11th. Those are linked in board docs.
I would like to motion to approve the March 11th meeting minutes.
Not here, so I'll abstain.
I feel like it's a conflict of interest by second because
Okay.
I'm
I will so second. And we can go ahead and approve. There was any additions or corrections to make to that?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye. All right, thank you. Catching up here. All right, so we can move right along then to our, well, we have an update on public comment policy. I don't know if we're ready or we should come back to that.
Yeah,
Is
Kevin's on here.
Kevin's not, okay, well, let's remember, I'll remember to come back to that.
Okay.
Then I'll move it to you, Heather, for the administration team.
Right. So I'll start off by letting the principals do their report. So I think Kathy and John are both on here. So Kathy, if you want to go on, and then we'll go to John or whoever wants to go first.
Flip a coin.
Yeah.
Take it away, Kathy. You got it.
Thanks, John. So our last school tour of the school year is going to be tomorrow. We've had, I know, like 40 plus people on these tours recently, and they've just been wonderful. I say hi to Simon, who was on the last one, and Simon, anyone in France is welcome to go to sleep now.
Thank you. I'm always available for phone calls. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, darling. Simon really liked the tour and feels our school would be a great fit for their family, which was lovely. So next week is going to be busy, but we'll start it off with this week being busy. It's all busy between now and the end of the school year, but we will have our Rising Night for first graders, adults only, on Thursday night from 6 to 7 in the lower L suites. So I just would love everybody who's going to have a child move from primary to first grade this year to please join us, because that's a big transition. So the more you know, the better prepared you will be. I personally am looking forward to seeing SpongeBob at the matinee on Saturday. Hope to see loads of people there. Teacher Appreciation Week kicks off next week. Looking forward to that. And our wonderful PTO have been very busy getting that up and running. Lower L goes to Stuart Little on Tuesday the 22nd, so a big level wide field trip that day, very exciting. And then the very next day they have Step Up Day, where our kindergartners will be visiting lower L classrooms and our third graders will be visiting upper L classrooms, just to sort of demystify the whole transition experience. That's always a fun day, and the kids will be so excited about that. Book fair will be the week of April 28th at the elementary campus. We'll be sending home info on that very soon. Upper L writing test went very, very well. Thanks to all our teachers, Stephen and Natalie, for getting that organized for us. Testing will start in May for PM3 of fast testing. So asking parents to please keep an eye on the calendar for the days that their children are testing, because we have found, even just with our own localized data, that children do better at the test the day that they are scheduled to test, as opposed to how they do if they sit the test on a makeup day. So we would appreciate, we want the kids to do well and give them every opportunity to do well. And that is it from me. Thank you.
A lot going on over at the elementary campus, and we have a lot going on at the secondary campus as well, starting off this week with the SpongeBob production. Thank you so much to our production team. Lily's done a great job with the kids. I'm looking forward. I think I'm going to go Friday night. Hope to see some folks there to go check it out. It'll be an experience. I've seen some of the sets and they're very, very cool. So good job to Lily and her team. Starting off next week, we have some AP testing as well. So that's going to kick off. Then on April the 30th, we're going to have our museum night, which we already have 50 families. As I checked yesterday, it was 47 or 50 families. I'd love to see more. We invite everybody to come over to check out what our kids have been doing. It's going to be a good time. So we're going to do our science fair, not at the museum. And we might have some cool artwork to show off as well. We have a nice mural that's going to be showcased, and we're really proud of some of the work that Marianne has done. So it's going to be awesome. Moving forward, we have graduation coming up pretty soon, like in 4 to 6 weeks. We have kids leaving, so we're going to be sad. Can't believe it's already at the end of the year. It's I started to kind of reminisce already, and it's a weird experience for me to see my first group graduating. I'm so proud of them. They're such a bunch of great kids. So it's going to be an emotional month for us for sure. On another positive note, I know last time we spoke about the digital tool certifications. We were up over 200 the last time, and now we are about 500. So kudos to the secondary one team for doing that. They've really rocked it with that. Some of the kids are just really, they'll come up to me like, Dr. P, I passed one, and I'm certified in cybersecurity. So I'm really, really proud of them. We have prom coming up May 3rd. We have grad bash coming up on April the 25th, the evening of April the 25th. So some of your seniors will come home really, really tired at 2 or 4 in the morning. So that's all we got going on for us, and we're excited. I can't believe it's already the end. And thank you everyone for such a great year.
Okay, thank you.
When is graduation? Yeah. Real quick, what's the date of that?
It is the 21st
Of May. And we're
of
still
May.
doing
Yes, I'm
it
sorry.
at the
Yep.
Center, correct? Yes. Okay. Afternoon time frame.
I think it was at 3 o'clock.
Thank you. I just have to find my calendar.
Yeah.
The dates and the times kind of jumble together at this point.
Yeah.
Also, wanted to say thank you to PTO. They've done a really great job of putting together a program for our teachers on our campus for next week. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna turn it over to operations. You want to share all your stuff?
Hi, everybody. So the very first thing that I want to say, I'm going to give you some cool updates and stuff. But everybody who walked on the campus today saw that we have a new addition. It's a big yellow school bus, and it's sitting out back there. And I just want to make this specific call out. I am incredibly lucky that I get to come and report to you, but this is a work of that entire team of Tito and his entire group. This is teachers and principals coming together with ideas. So I get to share it with you, but it is an entire organization that has put this together, and it is not possible without every single person coming with ideas. So just kind of keep that in mind. First thing is the construction on the primary room. Miss Ozma, who was the superintendent of the last construction we did, went with her team and put together a bid for that. So we have that number now. That's going to be 2 ADA restrooms in that new classroom. And on the high side, I've asked her to miss high, but we're looking at about 75,000. Okay.
And which rooms is that gonna be?
That's going to be the conversion of the art room into a new primary classroom for kiddos.
And then art going upstairs.
Yeah. So one of the things I'm going to ask you to do tonight is to go ahead and give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, and here's why. It takes about 4 weeks to get the city to go through all the drawings and make sure that they are, up to code. My goal for that is, if we're going to move forward, I want to go ahead and start demo the first week of June. That way we're not in the situation we were last year, kind of rushing into the last minute. That also leads to increased costs too when we do that, because we're working on weekends and stuff like that.
How does that compare to the reno we did last summer? I'm trying to
So
Similar.
we pulled that.
Yeah,
It's similar.
Yeah, it was like, look, 72 or something. I feel like it was.
Yeah. So we looked at that, and it is just about the same price.
okay.
Materials have went up. Labor, she kind of squeezed a bunch of people for us to get the labor price to make it even. Last year we did renovation on 2 classrooms, but it was only 2 bathrooms. So it's essentially the same project.
Yeah.
And she's put together a really good plan. I think that there's a very solid foundation if we want to go that way. So my recommendation would be yes.
And so just so you know, we have about $75,000 from spending. When you told me that price, I was like, oh. So Lily verified that for us and left in our construction bond money. So, that will deplete that for that. I did already meet with Kathy and Hilda and Kiana, and we looked through, we're going to start off with adding 15 students, and then looking at the space. If the space will allow more, then we'll do more. And so in the budget, even though we're not going to approve the final budget today, I have already budgeted for classroom materials, additional, we'll have 1 certified kindergarten teacher that can also teach PPK. and then a TA in that room. So I've already budgeted for all of that and it works out.
But the revenue from that classroom's not part of your budget?
It is.
Is that what I
It
read?
will
So, so this budget does not include the additional suite?
Up the upper L that we talked
Okay,
about. I'm
okay,
sorry, I should have
okay.
clarified that. Yes. So that would be the upper L suite that we'll talk about here. in a
So
minute.
you are counting those as
Yes,
part of
in the
your
budget.
FTE, okay.
Did we or do we need to get additional bids?
So part of going through her as a superintendent is she goes out to the different trades
Great.
and gets multiple vendors. We still are waiting on one from an electrician.
Okay.
Who's done other work for us, and then obviously, we'll pick the most competitive bid
Okay.
out of that.
Mhm.
I'm good to move forward. Anybody else have any?
Yeah. Doesn't need a board vote, I don't think so.
No.
Heather,
Mhm.
it's, it
It's already.
aligns with what you're
If it's in
expecting.
the budget, you've got thumbs up.
Yeah.
Cool.
Move forward.
So the next thing is finishing the bus renovation. I'm looking at about 20,000 for that. We can do a lot of like the rip out and the build out inside ourselves. There's just certain things I need, like I need to put power and air conditioner in it, and that's the majority of that cost. So that will be the next step, and we'll move forward with that too. We're gonna have a really busy summer.
Yeah.
Like I can tell you the custodians are already exhausted and it's on day 2. But they are working absolutely as hard as they possibly can to make sure you walk out and see the bus and see all that they've been
Yeah,
putting
it's
into it.
beautiful.
We're excited about the parents being here tomorrow to come and help rip seats out. And I think when we get together in May, I'll walk you all through it and be able to see something that I think we're gonna be really proud of when it's done.
What's the capacity for the bus? How many students are we expecting to house in that at a time?
Well, we're gonna wait and see what it looks like when the seats are out. I mean, we know what passenger seats, but that
Yeah,
looks
that's
different.
right.
So once that looks like, so just so you all know too, I know we put out, because we thought, okay, we're gonna have to put art in the bus. Since then, we've learned that we actually can put art and music both upstairs. So we are still trying to create, I know Kathy's been talking to her team of what do we want to make that space? We want it to be a fun learning environment, kind of like we do with the pavilion where so it may not be a permanent classroom. It's going to just be something that we can use with the kids and lessons and those kind of things. So I don't know exactly what that is yet. I know Kathy's been working through that with Stephen of what that would look like, but I know parents were concerned, some were concerned about art, but we will have a dedicated art space now for that.
And will the bus have access to a bathroom?
Yes,
To the NPR, yeah.
it's very similar to the pavilion, how we work outside.
Okay.
So, so that's what I have there. One other thing that I have for base is we're doing our summer camp. We're very excited about it. I'm excited to be able to announce next month, hopefully, some changes coming to the base program next year. But for summer camp, we have a whole slew of activities with like Miss Piper and some other people coming in to do like 2-week mini camps. So we're excited. Anybody who wants to have their kiddos have a Montessori summer camp, definitely sign up for that. I think that's all I got.
How was the spring break?
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The feedback we got as we put a survey out to parents was that they were so impressed with what we achieved this year. I can't say enough good things about Courtney and her team of finding a theme, like that one was STEM, finding a direction and really targeting it towards something instead of just come here and have fun on our playground.
Yeah.
So I'm really impressed with the work that her and her team have done building forward. Like next year, we're gonna have, I think 4 of the Epic Adventure Day kind of 1-day camps. Base is gonna look significantly different. Spring break camp, kind of building that momentum where, I don't wanna put kids on a bus to go do cheerleading or other things. Like there are kids, I wanna do it here. So, because nobody's gonna teach them in the Montessori style like we are. So that's kind of what we're aiming towards.
Awesome.
How many students did you guys, or how many participants in the spring break?
34, I think.
What was your capacity or like your expectation?
I wanted 50, but we were doing some things from a structural perspective there, implementing ProCare, which is going to be the registration system for base next year. So we were kind of late announcing it.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
I kind of knew
That's
that.
pretty good considering you only really have
Yes.
like a week's notice.
Oh, yeah.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it was good, but I think what we're doing is we're building momentum.
Yeah.
So I do think we're going to have a better summer and next year.
Awesome.
Anything else on the construction?
The 20K for the bus, I guess, I mean, not a problem in the budget.
No, that'll have to go in our regular budget,
Mhm.
yeah. Because we're not gonna have any construction money left.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Mhm.
So some of it we're already doing now. So it's not gonna be 20,000 off of next year's budget. It's
Okay.
gonna be a little bit now and then a little bit later. So we'll do.
Okay.
Where's our fundraising money supporting right now?
It's going towards Stephen's tech
IT
needs.
stuff.
Tech stuff?
I feel bad. I feel like I'm the one who's been talking on it.
Steven's Apple plan.
So I don't think you were here last month, were you, Brett?
No.
We talked about the iPad strategy for high school, and it was really cool. I actually got to sit with some of our high school teachers today. I was on that campus and I got to have lunch with some of them. We talked kind of through iPads and what that's going to look like. And I get this sense of excitement over there of the technology's been the limiting factor in instruction.
Yeah.
And now, we're going to give them this powerful device. I'm really excited about that. I'm glad that we were able to do the fundraising to kind of support that.
And I know, there was a question around why iPads, why. And Stephen did a great job talking through that in the sense of, if we could, we would hand everybody a device that could power everything, but we can't afford that financially.
Yeah.
So, and Chromebooks is not that.
Yeah.
And so the next thing that we looked at, besides giving them a high-tech iPad is, laptop would be an iPad. And so it is gonna take some time. We definitely wanna make sure we're training teachers on how to use that effectively. But there's gonna be other technology in the building. It's not just gonna be iPads only.
Yeah.
And I think we talked through that. There's gonna be some different programs that we put in place where there may be a desktop for, higher
Like for
power.
coding, if they're doing coding.
Yeah.
Are we
something
buying
like
are you
that.
buying the iPads?
We're going to lease
Purchase?
it. It works out about the
Okay.
same and you don't have to put as much cash out up front.
Yeah.
But a lot of that too is Dr. Pagnotti and what he's doing with the CTE stuff, right? To be able to fund that long term. So we're kind of fronting the investment to it, right? But he's gonna build in the back end of the certifications that will pay for it. I think that's really gonna give you something to market the secondary program.
Got it.
So that money that you were asking, that she had, so we've kind of got that sitting there, and so I've already put the first payment, because it is a 3-year loan payment for the iPad, already budgeted in the budget for next year. With hopefully we continue to raise money for that.
If I
At least two, can you?
And at the end of 3 years, so the reason we picked a 3-year, not to get too in the weeds of how the IT budget works, but when you look at the value curve on an iPad versus a laptop, right? A laptop looks like this, it's very linear. An iPad is much more gradual. So at the end of 3 years, we own the devices. If they're still great, we can use them and make no payment on them, right? But there is the opportunity there to resell those devices that still have, 40%, 30% of the value. Take that and offset the next.
Do a refresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it becomes a much more sustainable model rather than me come to
Yeah.
you every 4 years and ask you for $200,000 or whatever.
If I could piggyback off of that, if just real quick, last week I sent out in our newsletter kind of a little blurb about that funding problem. So we are concerned. I am concerned with some of the proposals in legislation about reducing some of those digital tools, sir. So it's important to let your voice be heard if you are so inclined. Right now, I think it's $134 per digital certification pass. And they're proposing to reduce that to 50% of that. And that is also with AP and we do dual enrollment at our school as well. So that would be a fairly large funding hit. So call your congressman.
I think, Stephen, there was some input about like the people's perception of utilizing an iPad in a different way.
Mhm.
Like, because we met and when we were talking about what we were going to focus on for fundraising, and it would come with a keyboard, and it would come with a lot of functionality of a laptop.
Oh,
I think,
absolutely.
I think for some that's like they didn't understand that connection of
Sure.
like seeing an iPad like
So an iPad is going to be the 21st century tool. And I've been in this business a long time. if you think about what an iPad really is, yes, we need to teach typing. That is an important life skill, right? Montessori is about practical life. So we put a keyboard on it. You know, we still teach the mouse skills other ways, but you know, this device right here is the most prevalent computer on the face of the earth. This is not going away, but the laptop model is. More and more, we're seeing the iPad, so it becomes actually a life skill. But then again, when I think about it, and I think I said it in my remarks at the donor event. If I was going to design a computer for a Montessori student, I would design an iPad because they can work outside with it, they can draw on it, they can create on it, right? So I really think that people look at the iPad as a content consumption device, which it is. But I think we lose sight of just how powerful of a device it is for creativity. And I think we're going to unlock that in our students next year.
Yeah, and I don't understand, you know, their reservation, because we want kids to be able to go out into the workforce and use a laptop or use something else. And we'll still have those opportunities, but we also know the financial strain that if our current laptops right now, if you ask the majority of our secondary teachers, they're just not running the program. They weren't equipped to do that.
What are you gonna do with the laptops?
Hoping to sell them.
Yeah.
I have that meeting on Thursday. There's not a lot of residual value in them just because they were very limited when we bought them. So I may be able to keep some of them for projects, you know, other opportunities in classrooms, but I would like to sell the majority of them to offset some of the new incoming device costs.
Thanks, Steve.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm gonna kind of put Alicia on the spot. She doesn't know this yet, but I thought about it. I was like, I was with her today and did the info. So Alicia, Cindy, and I think Cindy's on here as well, had the opportunity to go to the West Orange Chamber meeting. And I'm just gonna say, I wish I wouldn't have waited, you know, a year and a half to go, because it was very valuable in the information that we learned. And so I'm gonna kind of let Alicia talk a little bit about what she learned. And actually, she used her iPad to take notes. And she told us all about how it converts over. So I love it. So Alicia, would you share a little bit of some things that we talked about?
Yeah, I think, you know, the biggest standout for me was the opportunities for our kids community, you know, to get out and meet other business owners and things like that in the area. Everybody who was there was probably like 40 or so, you know, people in that meeting, which was fantastic. Seemed really receptive to the idea. We all kind of went around the room and talked about like, what are you doing here? And like, what, you know, that was a big part of what we're doing there. And so I've connected, Amy Cervantes is the person who kind of runs the members kind of program over there with Allison Franks and Renee, so that they can kind of talk and work through some events and things like that, that, you know, there's an event at the Home State Brewery in the mornings. It's coffee, not alcohol. That maybe students can join. And then there's also one at the Dr. Phillips YMCA, and that's like twice a month, where they could go, and then our students could be the ones who kind of present the elevator speech about our program and everything, and really kind of get involved in that way. And then also Amy talked about possibly doing a tour or something like that actually at the chamber. She's offered the YMCA too as being very generous in working with the community and things like that, so that there could be some cool relationship building there for our students. And then, you know, there were people who jumped on. We had somebody from Quest who, you know, talked a little bit about her business is ABA therapy, you know, and so like what, you know, our kids needs, like who are attending Montessori and things like that, and maybe doing some PD or something with our teachers, you know, she was open to that idea. You had the woman you spoke with who was really excited about coming in and training kids. She does, what was it? It was like speaking. She does drama.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So it's called 2/3 something.
Yeah.
Some kind of business that does financial, actually back office stuff for small businesses. But she said my background is in theater, performing arts, and I would be happy to come in if you have kids who want to audition to coach them for free. So we had Fifth Third approach me and said they would love to come in to math classes or into our
Financial literacy.
Yes, they're gonna do financial literacy. That's what,
Right.
so they would be happy to come in and talk to.
PMM, you're the math person, PFF?
And they said they do that all the time, and they would bring different branch managers to come in and work with kids through that and any type of project. So it was actually really nice to see after the meeting, how many approached us to
Yeah.
say, hey, I want to help.
Yeah.
Torchy Tacos was like,
Yeah.
hey, PTO, if you're on here, they are willing to do a 10 or 15%
Yeah, I think it's
night,
15%.
including alcohol, if our
Yeah.
fundraiser. So we definitely want to reach out to them. So it was really nice to see people, within the community excited about Montessori, but also helping our kids. So it wasn't just about us like connecting with them of like, what can they do financially for us, but they were really open to coming in and supporting our kids. And so Cindy, I kept just throwing business cards at her saying, hey, get with Allison and Renee, because that's the classes that we need them in
Yeah.
doing projects. But then on top of it, we want our kids out. So there was a program that West Oaks Mall, what was the name of that? Was it Foundation? No, what was it?
No,
It was Career Source.
There you go. Fair Source. Hi here.
Hello.
And twofold, they will help us with employment opportunities because they constantly have people coming in and filling out, they teach them how to fill out resumes and stuff like that. But they're also willing to work with our students for employment. So 17 and older, they will do a class. They even said if they had enough interest to come on campus to do a class and do summer employment. And then if we needed any summer employment, that they would help coach through that. So
Yeah,
we've already talked to Stephen about, hey, there may be some possibilities there, and then Alicia has linked up with all of their employment.
right, because they'll
opportunities.
host like job fairs and
Mhm.
things like that for us too, and also search for candidates. They'll do screening for candidates, and it's all funded through grants from the state. So, and he said he doesn't expect those to be going away anytime soon. So, okay, so I did reach out to them. We're waiting to get a consultation scheduled to do that initial meeting. The other thing, so the internship for the students, I think the application, he said he would accept them from students until the end of April. They'll work with students 15 and up, but it's 17 and up that get placed in like a facility to work. And then they're paid actually through their program for it, and that's also paid for by the grants. And then they're actually like interns with the businesses. So yeah, it was really great. I'm excited about doing some more activities. Cindy and I are going to do some together, and I think we just kind of keep bringing people on and getting more people involved. I think it'll really help us.
Cindy, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I spoke to the two videography companies, and the one that did the YouTube stuff. He said he would be willing, because I was telling about Dr. Pagnotti adding the video program for next year. He said he'd be willing to come out to the school to work with them and maybe even help set up the lab if we need help, but also to bring our students to their facilities and show them what a full setup looks like. And they're actually making careers out of making YouTube videos, which is what all the kids want to do. But it's like it's a legit, business if you do it right. And then I also met with the Nehrling Gardens, which is the botanical gardens over in Gotha. And they have a lot of volunteer opportunities as well as, just it being a botanic garden. I know like the marine science people are going on their big trip this weekend, but Keisha and I are going to talk about it when she gets back. Either they come to the school and help us, or we go there, or both. So in addition to all the ones that you guys already talked about, those were the three big ones that I talked to afterwards. And I actually was at Nehrling on Saturday and touched base with them again. They tried to get me to go onto their board. It was really funny. So, but so yeah, it's great. Lots of volunteer opportunities, for Bright Futures and whatnot. Lots of internships opportunities, a wide variety of fields. So it was really good. It was a good hour.
Absolutely.
It's all 1 hour. Wow.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
The other big thing is we put out the parent survey. It went live on Friday. We've actually had several responses, but I really want more. Trying to figure out how I can print, without printing individual copies, a banner of the QR code. So parents who are waiting in the parent pickup line could scan and take it as they're sitting there. So I just don't know, like, I don't think we have a banner.
Marissa and I to
printed.
come just walk through the car line like we do for the coffee day, just pull on the side.
We have a process now.
I got it down.
We need my husband too, though. There's a three-person job.
Yeah, there's the two we left.
Yeah, so I just sent Karen, I know you're on here, an email to say, hey, can PTO help push that out too? Like, I really want, the community's input of how do we, meet, like, what areas do we need to grow in academically, but then also how do we get our community strong and for future, endeavors, and then anything else you just want to share. And definitely, so my goal is if that would stay open at least another week and then compile all that information and then start sharing that out with, depending on what stakeholders it involves, and say, how do we start making a plan for next year? What does that look like?
You can maybe do even quarter sheets, backpack.
Maybe that's what I'm gonna have to do. I
Right,
was
like
trying
just-
to not do
I know,
that,
print a
but-
bunch of paper, but
Yeah,
I mean, you could get more than 4 to a sheet if you're just doing the QR code,
I guess
but,
that's true. We can
but get everybody to take a slip home and
have
really,
them take it that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's our Montessori homework.
Yeah. That's all you're getting.
That's all
And that's
you
probably what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna put
Yeah.
out another push tomorrow, but yeah, if you see people, please tell them to take it. Like, we really want the feedback.
Mhm.
We may not be able to change everything, but, you know, good, bad, and ugly, we have to know so we can know where to go next.
Yeah.
So, SRO contract, he did call me, yesterday finally, but they still don't have a contract ready. He was supposed to send me before today a mock-up contract. That did not happen. The way he talked, they would do the contract. They have to take it to their attorneys and approve it at their board meeting. So I did tell him that I need to have it by May board meeting.
Yeah.
Because it really, I started this process at the end of January. He did indicate he did not think there would be an increase the 25-26 school year. And because I was very honest with him, I said, you know, we have to make a decision financially. And I did find out that you're using our contract of the negotiation for OCPS. So we've been paying more all this time.
Oh,
So, I can't pay more.
no.
So he quickly was like, well, so you would be willing to pay the same? And I kind of said, well, I would like to pay less. He asked about the 2-year, because that's what we had before, the 2-year contract. And I said, well, only if you don't raise the percentage up really,
Yeah,
you
about
know, I think it
4
was 2% this year increase from last year on the contract, but
Stay.
like, I understand a little, but I don't understand a lot. So he was like, okay, no, I'll get you a draft one and get it over to you. I did not. So hopefully by May we'll have that. Because I kind of threw in like, I don't want to have to go the Guardian way. That is not what we
No, don't
want.
to,
But OCPS is gonna start having trainings, and I don't
We need
want
to
to miss
on
out that
yes,
either.
you know.
I also bragged on our SROs, like how much we really
They're
want to keep them.
amazing.
So that is ultimately the goal, is I want to keep our SROs unless they just come back with something that we can't financially
Yeah.
sustain. Budget. So, today we're not, going to approve an official budget. I kind of wanted to see, you know, some structural things. But next month we will have the budget ready for approval, but I'll be honest, it's, what would you say, 99% finished. I think we've got almost everything in there. We transitioned to SFS, and I'm gonna kind of let Lily talk about that, how that's going.
How's it going, Lily?
It's going great.
Too much of a dramatic.
Dramatic.
Shorter. Okay, so to be honest, they have exceeded expectations. So we kicked off with them on April 1st, and actually they're on here.
Oh,
today,
I think they would be.
Jessica Miller. So we can let her talk. We can let her talk in a little bit too, but we started April 1st with them. So these last 2 weeks have been very hectic because I'm still closing out with Building Hope.
Right.
We just closed out March yesterday. And then, of course, we have our final finance committee with them next week. But in the meantime, working with them and working with SFS as I'm also getting used to their system. It's been very interesting, trying to go between the two, but they've been very helpful. One of the biggest things that I'm very happy with is the new PEX card system. I gave all those to each department head on April 1st, and I've gotten great feedback so far. And so there's been a few hiccups, but one of the things I told SF is like, we exchange numbers because if you need something, we can text each other right away. They're very communicative, responsive. And so the other thing is last week I did have a meeting with the budget person, and we went through like each line item from our budget and our books as well that they got from Building Hope. And so we kind of were like going through the codes, cleaning it up, getting ready to what we're going to look forward to starting July, but also how we're going to close the year. And so we're working together on getting everything ready for the closing of the fiscal year and then kicking off July 1st. The other thing, we did our first payroll with them on Friday. And I gotta say, I was very impressed with how their system is, how they work. You know, I actually did it all in one day, which was kind of a first. So I gotta say, like, very good things with them so far. The other thing I do want to add on is we also have an Amazon business account. I don't know if anybody knew, but for the longest time, we didn't have an Amazon business account. We actually opened it up in December. And from December up until April 1st, we've been kind of testing it out to see how we're going to set it up and everything. We got everything done by April 1st with each different department. So now the streamlining is so much easier because, for example, if Steven and his team need to order something, there's a budget in there that's what they use. He's in charge of that. He approves it. Once I get the invoices, because now they're all invoiced, it's very easy to just account that for in our books. And SFS also has access to those accounts where, you know, they will see everything. It makes it a lot easier for us to work together on that. The other thing is we are also in the talks of moving away from school pay. So that's another big.
Complaints out of me.
Okay. We're good with that.
That's another big system that we're working through. We've already had several meetings with the different departments on the ones who would be using it, along with Heather, Alicia, and Steven on how we're going to implement this. Now we're kind of going through the agreement, seeing, you know, anything that we have questions and stuff like that. The point is that we want to roll it out around June to get it ready for July. But this system starts from the lottery system to registration all the way to payments. And so it's all in one place. And so far, like everybody that I've had in the meetings, like Cindy, Kiana, Hilda, like the registrars, financials, operations, lunch, it also covers NSOP. I've gotten good feedback from them, so it seems like starting July 1st, we won't have school pay anymore. It'd also be easier for parents because everything will be there. Once a student goes through the lottery, they're accepted and registered and all that. All that information channels through into the payment system. So we're no longer gonna have all these different platforms.
Volunteer hours.
Yeah.
I can answer that for you. I actually had that conversation today with Frank from Concierge Pet. And what I told him was, if you build it, I'll buy it. So they've been very responsive to us. They're out of South Florida, and he's gonna have something for me to look at tomorrow.
Steven's gonna Field of Dreams over there.
No, but seriously though, like, I think I said this last month too, but I mean it. I'm having the most fun I've had in the last 5 years of doing this. We have finally gotten over the crisis, right? We're putting great systems in place. Lily has done a wonderful job with the text cards, and like, it makes my job as an operator so much easier. And that's what is allowing us to go, instead of 2 inches forward, now we're going 2 feet. And in July, we're gonna start running. Like, I'm really excited about where we're gonna be next year.
Yeah, because one of the things with our current system, well, there's a lot of things with our current system, but one of the main things too is that it's so difficult, like Brittany, she does an excellent job of trying to ensure kids are paying and all that kind of stuff. But there's no like tab to invoice. So she's having to go through each individual, match up her paperwork, and it's just too much. And that would be for, same thing with Courtney, with Base, and so this would send automatic generator, like reminders to the parents, hey, you need to pay for. Yeah.
That would be really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
actually, one of the biggest things was, as we were getting ready to roll out the reminder for student supply fees, I'm sure you didn't get a second notice.
It's only paid so many times. Fine, I think I can pay 5.
Right. As I was going through that, it was taking forever, and I was like, I can't do this. I don't think I can keep this up anymore. And so Alicia and Heather back in November, they had gone to a conference where they had gotten a lot of information from vendors, and this is where they found this system called Easy Suite. So we're doing this now. We're calling them, we're getting a demo, and so for the last month, we've been having these different meetings, just trying to get everything ready and everyone on board. So I'm really, really excited about that because, I can see we're really moving forward.
It does field trip too.
Oh. So here's the thing, like with field trips, they have different applications, but they all work together. With field trips, it all starts from the teachers can send out the forms to the parents sign them, approve them, whatever, and they can do the payments. They can get reminders, emails, all that through there.
Texts and calls.
Too. Oh, wow. So we're very excited about that. But yeah, so far going back to SFS, I don't know if Jessica would like to say anything. Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot there, but
Hey guys, I'm Jessica. I'm the accounts payable specialist. Miranda, the accountant, she had to leave early today, so she wasn't able to join. I really don't have anything to add besides I love you guys. Everything's been going really good. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer.
And so SFS, just so you'll know, they'll start attending our board meetings and presenting our budget next month.
Okay.
So remember that crossover, even though we started with them in April, we're working off of March budget. And then as you'll see tonight, it's actually February with the way our timeline falls. So I think it'll be nice to have them on here and all those specific questions, even though they'll be part of our finance committee meeting. If you have any additional questions, they'll be on here as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jessica. No, we're looking forward to working with you guys, and if you're making Lily happy, you're making us happy.
Good. I love Lily.
Absolutely. And kind of the piggyback on the volunteer, we will have a system. I did pull the data we currently have, and there's still a lot of people that don't have volunteer hours that really need to get that. But we don't have, the system is just not great for tracking that. And it's a lot of like, I put it in myself, and then like, some people don't know how to put it in. I have some people that signed in 4 times in one day, and so it's very difficult for me to go through and say, hey, you owe me this many hours. I mean, we'll still be looking at that. If your name's not on there, that kind of means you owe us this many hours. But I did look into our charter, and I definitely think next year we have to be very diligent to say it's 20 hours, or unfortunately your application, you'll go back in the wait list. And because that is written into our charter. And I know that, we became lenient on that after COVID, but we need people. I will say, just reviewing some of the feedback on the parent survey, some of it was opportunities not during the school day. So that's something I want to get with the admin team to sit down and say, okay, what are some of those things that we can put out that, hey, we understand if you work during the day, you may not be able to do lunch, or something that we have going on during the day, but what could be after hours?
Yeah.
And also inclusive opportunities for folks who may not be able to do things that are physical or.
Absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
so we're gonna get through that, but I just want parents to know that it is coming, and that will be definitely a requirement next year. We're gonna follow through on those 20 hours.
Yeah.
And so-
Have a buyout option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wish we did. Unfortunately, our charter, it only has for 3 and 4 year olds.
Yeah.
That they can do the buyout option.
What is the cost of the buyout option? Do you-
I don't have that in front of me, but
Yeah,
there
that'd
is
be
a
I feel like
buyout.
it used to be like $300 when Gregory was 4, but
Yeah.
Gregory's 10
Per
now,
hour.
so.
Yeah, yeah.
I did not do it, I volunteered.
As far as the budget, the only thing I really want us to make sure that you are aware of is I would like to go ahead, in the budget, I have put a 2% COLA, for staff. And we want to go ahead and start working on contracts for next year. And so when we went through all of that, 2% was one that we felt like that we could still sustain what we need, but also give that to our staff. So all staff at 2% COLA increase. If you remember last year, we just changed the salary schedule of all classified staff, and then teachers received the bonus of $1,500, which was equal to either 2 to 3%, depending on where they landed. But this year would be a COLA of 2%. So if you guys are okay with that, I'd like to go ahead and do that, because Alicia, Lily, and I are going to start meeting on Thursday to start drafting up contracts and handbooks and all that kind of stuff for next year.
Is that enough to keep us competitive with OCPS?
Yeah.
They're not doing a raise at all. I think it's great
From what
this
I've been
year.
told, they're not doing a raise next year, and they're actually reducing some staff.
Yeah, they're gonna be
So,
cutting,
Yes.
cutting a lot,
Yeah.
actually. So we
So-
might get some people from there. That's a positive.
Yeah. And then the budget, just so you know, kind of go back to what you were asking earlier, Brett. Right now, it's based off of 935 students. That is the increase of 15 students in the primary classroom. So that includes, I think there's, if my numbers are correct, 6 kindergarten student increase, and then the rest would be 3 and 4 year olds. So that's budgeted in there. We definitely want to look, I've already met with Kiana and Cindy for potential enrollment overall, like making sure that we're at cap. And so we're budgeting conservative, especially at the secondary campus, but Cindy's working really hard, and we actually do have kids on the wait list that we may be able to at least increase our secondary campus. So if that changes, I just don't want to budget off numbers that's not there.
Yeah.
And then
What do you-
us have to reduce next year. We can always add to.
What do you think you can get to next year?
Well, if we.
Where do we staff to get to next year?
Right,
Yeah.
so right now, 935 will be
Okay.
what we're staffed at. We did look at 955 as a potential, so that extra increase
That's-
would be at the secondary campus. So, if those kids that we have on, that says they want to enroll, actually stays and we don't lose a lot of kids, we definitely, I think, could potentially go up at the secondary building. I've been meeting with Kathy, and Eileen about the additional suite. So what we kind of thought we would do, instead of just offering to 44 kids to open up a new suite, was that we would make sure we could get a staff member secured, like one. If we get that, bring in 22 kids. And then if this year it would work out, get another teacher and bring in 22 more. If not, then do one class this year and one class next year.
Heather, does that account for the upper L students who were displaced?
Yes, we would be reshifting back to everybody's normal class size.
So would that be 22 new students in addition to the students who
Yes.
were put into other
Yes.
upper L classes?
Yeah, so no matter what, this number, 935, actually has us having 5 full classrooms. So we would take some of those students out of upper L that was placed over in the other classroom.
Okay, and some of them will go to middle school.
Yes, yeah, of course, some will go to middle school. And then fill the extra classroom.
Okay.
So we would have no open suites upstairs? Because would we have any open space?
Yes, so for one, would be over here on this side if we can get it. We just haven't projected off of that yet. The 935 is if I have all 10 classes running, so all 5 suites that are at cap.
Okay.
But the goal would be is if we can get an extra upper L teacher, we would open up an additional classroom of 22 students.
22. So those 22 are not in the 935.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Did you sign the contract for that upper L? Did we get that one in?
The offer's out.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of the projection. So I actually have a budget based off of I have 3 budgets going right now. So I do have a budget that if we did do the new class, we actually would budget, it would be at 980 students.
Yeah, that's a good chunk.
Yeah, it's a different playing field I actually met with the principals and said, this is the different amount of money that we're talking about. But I also want to say though, I know how difficult it is to bring in 44 new kids new to Montessori.
Yeah.
So definitely want to ensure that our upper L teachers are not overwhelmed with, 44 new students. So if we could get it to where we just do 22 and have a teacher and a TA in there for this year and then increase again next year would definitely be the way I'd like to go for that. Because right now our budget, even on the 935, we're getting those items that we definitely talked about. That's kind of the budget. I think that's all I had as far as updates on my overall updates, but now, sorry, I didn't mean for this agenda to be so big. So calendar for next year, I met with principals and we looked at different calendars. I actually gave them 4 options in the calendar. And what I did was kind of try to take some feedback from staff, and then also what the principals have talked about, also keeping in mind the community. And so some of those options included just following directly with OCPS's calendar. So everything's the same. We also looked at an option of one of the teacher work days where they do report cards to actually turn that into a parent teacher conference day, because right now the struggle for our staff is to get through all of the parent teacher conferences and not kill themselves in the meantime after hours.
Yeah.
We also looked at changing, so these are not the options we voted for as an admin team, but of course it's going to be overall. The other option would be us starting 2 days earlier, but getting out before Memorial Day because OCPS is after Memorial Day, and changing a couple days around. After working and meeting with the principals, their vote was only changing 1 day on the calendar. So currently, first day of school is projected for OCPS on August 11th, so that would be our day to start. The only difference would be on October, like a Monday or a Friday, we got to talk through that. On the 20th or 24th, us take off and make that a parent-teacher conference day. But to make up that day, OCPS is taking off in April, on April 24th for a teacher professional development day, is that we would just come to school that day. So there's only a 1-day change. So we would have off a day in October for parent-teacher conferences. And then to flip that on April the 24th, we would come to school and OCPS would not.
When I like you're really pushing those conferences earlier in the year too, right?
Yeah.
Like to build the relationship
Right.
and identify any needs. So versus like, what are you doing in April?
Right. And I know April's a long, a long stretch to go, but at the same time, it's also momentum. So I'm torn on both sides of that, because I understand our spring break is early, it's the 16th through the 20th. And so that's a big stretch, but at the same time, I'm also see the side of needing parent-teacher conferences, especially on the elementary campus, and how long that takes and how much work that is on our staff. So if they had a day where parents would just have to know, like it would be scheduled all day.
Yeah.
So I know,
Yeah,
whether that's
other
through a
schools
virtual
do it
or
that way as well. I'm familiar
So
with
would
the
you take
process.
the day there's a day you already have a week before that on the 10th, right? That's
that would be the day that
or the
the
13th.
teachers,
That would be the day you do report cards.
yeah, they would actually get their report cards
Then
ready.
the following week you do the
Mhm.
conferences. Got it.
And you should have PM1 by then too, right? Like theoretically. So
Mhm.
that information should be able to be shared with parents to see where their kiddo is doing progress wise after PM1.
Right. And like we said, we did talk about the start changing up the date where we come 2 days earlier and in 2 days earlier. I think, and I don't want to always speak for the admin team, but when we talk through that, we do also worry about families who have kids in OCPS, you know, somewhere else. And, you know, that's 4 days potentially different, you know, that I have two, you know, I may have a kid starting 2 days earlier, but getting out 2 days earlier versus OCPS. And, but I also think I like the fact of getting out before Memorial Day.
Yeah, we're losing those 2 days of instruction.
Right.
Let's be honest,
Yeah.
like that Tuesday and Wednesday is class parties, you know,
Right.
fun share out of a project
Right.
culminations, but.
Or people are just taking off and going on vacation.
Or they're just gonna pull.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean,
I also say for working parents who are trying to find coverage when kids are not in school, they all follow OCPS's calendar. Like, you know, if you're trying to find a spot for your kid.
yeah. And so that's why we went with, you know,
Yeah,
other
that
than
makes
the
sense.
the flip of days, that was the only difference, is it will start exactly the same time and end the same time, but.
So then potentially OCPS is going to be in school on that Monday and Friday of the 20th or the 24th for October, then, right?
Right.
They'll be in school,
Yeah.
so then.
Yeah, the day in red would be the difference, so
Mhm.
like on the 24th of April,
It's
they
enough
would be
time to
out.
plan, though. They're gonna know in advance so that you can hopefully figure
And we'll have a
something.
date of camp with it.
Okay, here we go.
Shameless
Come
plug.
through with all the
Perfect.
Shameless plug.
I
Yeah,
didn't even think about that. See?
problem solved. That was
Yeah.
our concern. Okay.
Yeah. So, if the board is okay with that, we would submit that calendar to OCPS.
Yeah, I don't see any issues. Anybody else?
no issue.
Good to move forward.
All right. So the next thing is the thing that I think is probably gonna throw a lot of people off, but I think it's exciting too, but thinking outside the box. I had the opportunity again to meet with the principals, and we talked through just some logistic things that we're struggling with. And I know John and Kathy, I've already told them, hey, you're gonna have to step in and make sure, but what we're proposing is a different start time for our high school. And you'll see on the document that I shared, there's a lot of whys. If we open the doors at 7:15 and start at 7:30 for high school, they would be done at 2 o'clock on Monday, every day except for Wednesday, and 1 o'clock on Wednesdays. And one of the biggest thing is we have a ton of tardies. And a lot of times there are students who drive their younger students here and try to drop off and then get back to school.
Yeah.
So that's like one of the biggest things. The other is it allows, by getting out a little earlier, it allows kids to have employment after school. And then if there's athletics, those kind of things of being able to start that, it does mimic OCPS's high school start time, because they start at 7:30 as well.
Yeah. Late bell rate to like
Yeah.
7:19.
Yeah.
Right? What's the
Dark,
late
yeah.
bell for OCPS?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's also the biggest thing. Also by staggering, it also helps secondary parents to get from elementary to high school to get their kids, like they're just trying to run back and forth. And then I'm gonna speak for the staff as far as base for staff children has been really difficult, like after school childcare. So we put a burden on our TAs this year here at this campus to hold staff kids. And so they were trying to watch a group of staff kids because the year before we had like 80 spots of base filled up with staff kids, but they only needed it for an hour. And so it was a lot of back and forth, but by staggering this time, so for example, it would allow secondary teachers to be done at 2:45, and then they could come over and get their kids by 3. And so there's not that. And then the flip side of we would work with, I think there's just a handful of secondary or middle school kids that teachers work here, that we would stagger a TA over there to stay until they're done. And so that would also help alleviate that. So there's a lot of facets to why we wanted to look at this. And so to go back to say, elementary would stay the same, their start and end time would stay the same. High school would be 7:15 to 2:45, or I'm sorry, 7:30 until 2, except on Wednesdays. And then I put in there the start time for TAs. And you'll see on secondary, it says TA 1. So one would come in at normal time at 7:15, but one would come in an hour later to stay with middle school kids who's our staff members, so they could get over here for that.
Do you have numbers on crossover families between both campuses?
I mean, I could get them, I
Like,
don't have them.
Because I mean, my immediate reaction to that, we're a family who runs between both campuses every day, and now putting an hour between
Yeah.
two start times means I'd be taking my elementary cool kids at 7:30, when we drop off the high schooler, and then
Sitting in the
sitting around
parking
for an
lot for
hour
20
waiting to
minutes,
drop
yeah.
off elementary school kids, and then kind of vice versa in the afternoon. So
Yeah, and then
that is a pretty big burden on parents. I don't know what
and in the afternoon,
how much that is, if it's
Mhm.
small number of families. I think
I don't
it's
think it
fairly
is.
quite a bit, but
yeah, and in the afternoon, you know, if I come
that's
out
a
of my
lot.
lunch hour to pick up my kids, now all of a sudden I'm looking at like 2 hours.
yeah, it's already like,
But to go back and forth,
how's it only 30 minutes?
Because. you
Drop
could
off starts at,
here, 7:30 would start time over there. And then the same thing with pickup would be 2 o'clock there, and you would then pick up here at 2:30.
So I can tell you that I have about, and I kind of made the fatal error earlier in the year of kind of putting it out on Parent Square for, hey, please make sure that we're not getting here late. Because I had at one point, I think one day I had
Oh yeah,
47 tardies, and we're talking, I mean, it's quite disruptive, you know.
no, John, I get it. I know personally, like it's
Yeah.
a tight squeeze some mornings running from one to the other. That's
And
like,
so
if there was like 10 minutes
was-
more between the two, it'd be
like
perfect.
15 or-
Yeah.
But
we
like,
just, the idea was to make sure that we were able to get one group in and then have
Yeah.
enough time to make sure that that there's not the car line situation on the other campus, and then also making sure that we can get the staff folks out to go pick up their kids. So it might be, like I said, I think you're right, it is a half hour that you have to.
I mean, it's probably more like a half an hour, but I would say like you're probably gonna have elementary kids who are now having to leave home at 7
Yeah.
to go drop off at 7:30, and then I do think one of the benefits that I liked of our start, that was a unique thing with our high school, is there's a lot of the science and data says later start times for high school kids is, that's why the state had voted to make that change, even though they're, I think, repealing that for the rest of most of the counties. But that was an appealing aspect, I think, of this high school program, is that it was not a 7:30 start time.
And Heather, you also mentioned kids dropping off their younger siblings. That would now be impossible.
Right, parents would have to.
Yeah.
But one of the things, the feedback when I would ask the kids of why they were, is because my parent already had to be at work and they couldn't wait until 8 o'clock.
True, but then they still have to get a kid here at 8 o'clock. You still have to get someone in that door. You're not out of the parking lot until 8:02. I mean, when I've got 8:30 meetings, that's like a real like.
We do have morning days.
morning days.
Yeah.
I think it'd be interesting just to know like what the potential, impact of that is. Like,
I know just in the O'Keefe classroom, you've got a lot of folks who have CASA kids and secondary kids. So I think there is not a small number. I mean,
I would just ask for, just kind of thoughts then, kind of brainstorming then if what it could look like. Because I have 25 to 30 tardies per day.
yeah.
I mean, they go out the door. So it's not a small problem, and I can.
and are those all drop-offs from people dropping off at elementary?
I would say the bulk of them are.
Yeah.
The vast majority.
What if you did, like, instead of starting at 7:30, could you do drop off 7:30 to 8 o'clock, or just scooch it a little bit to Brett's point? Because it really,
And so the issue, I think then, Kate, is that I don't have, I'd have to make sure, how do I get my staff over to the other campus and have that covered, and or vice versa? That's the issue. That's why it had to be pushed back so much. That's my
over here.
We had 30 something, I think, was what was in staff base. I didn't oversee staff base, so I don't have that number in front of me, but there were.
So 30 secondary staff have students on elementary?
There were, I think, 30 kids.
Yeah,
30 kids.
30 kids, yeah.
It's a significant number, because we looked at, could we absorb them into base? And historically, going all the way back to when you know, when Nyla and stuff were here, and I'm sure Alicia, when you did it too, like, it destroys the base budget because I have to staff for those kids. And then I lose them at 4 o'clock, so it makes the program not enriching and stuff like that, which is why they segmented it out this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was the complaint I heard when I first started, was from staff, from parents who were having to leave our school because we didn't have room and base.
Yeah.
And we really did after 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
And so I know, especially in the CASA program, a lot of parents withdrew their application because they didn't have space. So it's kind of that, how do you appease all population kind of thing, and what was the best route for that? I do also want to go, like, again, go back to, it gives our secondary students an opportunity to be able to do employment after hours or do athletic events that they want to participate into. So that's the other thing, not just our staff, but also that.
What about allowing like 10 minutes for the families that are having to commute to come here a little bit earlier and just staff like an extra person to kind of catch those kids with the families that are commuting? So that they give that extra 10-minute buffer to get to high school. So if we just did for that 30 children, 30, 40 kids, maybe a little club that they could do for 10 minutes and then their day starts.
The problem is the staffing.
Yeah, I was gonna say that
Because it is about a 10-minute problem. Like,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
personally,
I know.
every single day of the week, it's like, man, it's pushing. And if I had 5 or 10 minutes more, it'd be much simpler.
And I think that's why we thought, well, if we start at 7:30.
At least for the tardy problem.
Is then it gives you plenty of time to get over here. And
Could you start at 8?
Like,
what does that do if you start at 8 and 8:30? Because right now both campuses start at 8:30.
8. Yeah.
Right. And so
Doors open.
But our drop off starts.
Right, that's what I had said.
So you
in high
start
school, started at
7:30 window, start school at 8.
Yeah.
8 window and 8:30 start.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would just say you'll probably, I mean, that's something to consider, the impact to those families and how that may impact people's ability to stay or not, you know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It'd be interesting to see the data.
You're here at 7:45, so then you do have to sit 15 minutes.
Yeah.
15 minutes, right? So then if we were to even like give it 5 minutes, right? Like, so instead of it being 7:15 or 7:30, maybe it's 7:35. I mean, like, I'm not.
My point is too, is just,
minutes that we
it's
could get
the-
here and there with like.
it's the drop off window, but to me, it was also the not having to have the high school kids start so early.
Yeah.
It's just anything we can do to, I mean, the data says start them at 9 o'clock or, you know, not even later,
First
right?
grade
So,
math hard.
yeah, so having them there at 7:30 just.
19, I'm like,
So
let's
this
go.
is an unpopular, but we haven't talked about the start time of elementary. Like, we're shifting high school, but if you want that to stay later.
Well, what the state voted to change was have high school start at the latest time, and that's supposed to take effect like when, next year? Is there 2 years from now?
Yeah,
They're not. The bus schedule, the bus money's, there's
Well, not only that, but
a whole
you're gonna-
political fiasco, like.
Sports event.
Yeah, starting.
You're just pushing down.
But it got, I mean, this
I
is,
know,
this
but
is
I
what
think
got
that's why
voted
they're
in, like,
pushing
but
it back
they're
down.
gonna roll it back now
Yeah.
because of the logistics of it are just hard. But if you just follow the data says
Yeah.
that circadian rhythm with the high school students, they need to start school no earlier than like 9 a.m.
I'd be more worried about my 7th and 8th graders than my. I feel like those are the
Yeah.
kiddos that really.
But either way,
they'll struggle
they're
more,
still
but
now in
they're
that
still
whole
in that grade.
7th and 8th graders in Orange County now start at 9:30,
Yeah.
right? Because it's what middle school starts. So, but we're now pushing those middle school kids to 7:30.
But right, like, but then you still have parents who need to get to their jobs.
What
so
impacts
the
that
longer
have
you
on
take
your-
that place off, then you've got people who are trying to get to a job starting at 9, and then, you know, so there's that piece of it too. So it's like, do you impact a few greater or more?
That's why I asked,
Then
like,
it's
what's the data? What's the
what, right?
data
Like,
of how many crossover families do we have, and do we think we'd have?
We
If
can look
it's
into that to see.
if it's 10%, that's a different story. If it's 30 or 40%, then that's, you know, that's a different.
And we want to
Different
encourage
ends to look
that.
through.
We want more crossover families,
Yeah, of
right?
course, that's the
we want
long-term
to make
plan.
that easy for everyone.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is the elementary is at 8 and high school is 8:30.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, that messes up the whole base thing, but that helps with with the commute, that helps with the tardiness, but it doesn't help with the base thing.
I wonder if we could look at,
Helps with learning.
Courtney's gonna hurt me because I'm saying this without talking to her first. I wonder if we could look at absorbing some of those kids in morning base. I would have to know how many kids that is, but that might offset some of that having to be two places.
Mhm.
But
at one
unfortunately,
time.
some parents may not want to pay for that.
Yeah.
Well, especially if it's that, yeah, if it's like
Yeah.
15 minutes, yeah.
I guess. I
Um,
don't know.
Right. Because we, yeah, I get, I mean, listen, I understand on the parents' perspective, but I also have to advocate for the staff too. Like, it's really hard on them right now to have both. And we realized that we could not run it as a TA led. And so now we're having to let teachers go early to go pick up their kids, which then takes away from planning. time.
Yeah, I'm one of them. That's what guys is in the budget to hire somebody to watch the staff kids.
Well,
I think that's what you were saying.
But then, unfortunately, it was just so overwhelming because there's so many kids that, we had TAs doing that, and they were just like, listen, I didn't sign up for that. Like, this is a lot. And we want them in the classroom, helping prepare the environment. And so it's just really been.
You want the TAs in the classroom?
Yeah, at the end of the day, they work
That's
with
what
our,
yeah.
And so that's the issue that we're running into. One incentive I did, I talked to the principals about that I would like for us to do for our staff, because they're working really, really hard, is to change, right now in their contract is an 8-hour day. I'd like to change it to 7.5-hour day. And that will help a little bit to alleviate that time. So with the understanding though, there are gonna be some times that you are gonna have to stay later, like that is gonna be that way. And they have to have their job done, like they have to be ready to go the next day. But right now their day is 7:50 to 3:50, which really puts a hardship on people who have kids. So by changing that, depending on when we start school, because I had it listed in here, teachers on the elementary would be 8 to 3:30, and then TAs would be 7:45 to 3:15. And then on the secondary campus, teachers would be 7:15 to 2:45. And that would be their day. Pay and everything would stay the same. It would just be a 7.5-hour day for them to try to help alleviate. So you'll see secondary could get over here in time to get their kids.
It's like a pay increase.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. But I just know how much they're working after hours already. And I just think, by saying you have to stay here till 3:50, but then they're still having to do things. But what I talked to the administrators about
Give the
was,
flexibility so that they can still manage their time on days that they do need to go and do stuff. And some
Right.
days they don't, they can still stay and get their class
Absolutely.
done. Yeah.
that's the ultimate thing is, and I went back to the administrator to say, and if that doesn't happen, then that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Of, hey,
Your performance criteria needs to stay the
right,
same.
right. So if you're a person who works better, your room is ready to go, but you work better at night, then you can do that. But the job has to be done, kind of thing. And I just think that would be an incentive for both our TAs and our teachers, to be able to do that.
And also would keep us in line with the district for hours worked.
I like that idea.
I do as well.
I don't like 7:30. I don't know if that's something we're asking the board to vote on, and that's a fairly
Well,
significant change in my mind, but
Like ultimately, I think the board has to make the decision of our start and end time. I don't think that can just be us.
Yeah.
We can go back to the table and look at.
Yeah, I'd like some more information on it. Like if we
Yeah.
could just pull together some more information on what the impact is, if there would be any wiggle room there to tweak some of those minutes here and there. So maybe it's not 45 minutes between, maybe it's, 40 or 35. I don't know if we could get it a little bit closer. That might just be a little bit easier if we can pull back.
Yeah, like a 7:45 start time over at high school.
Well, I just pulled our OCPS, so they have 7:20, right? Like, so that's when they start. I've got their bell schedule right here.
sucks.
7:20
Like, it's not good.
to 8:31.
it's not
You
good.
know, so that's what they're doing.
Yeah, we also don't have transportation, like if someone
Yeah.
I drive 10 miles to get here. There's no way my student before they're, of driving age would be, from 7th grade through when my first one is 16, there's no way they can get themselves here, right? If they were going to
So
the
we
local
do need to
school.
have the stagger. We need to have some sort of stagger then so we can get kids at both campuses.
Yeah.
You gotta have that no matter what.
Yeah, it's like we also have to say.
To Sarah's point, the goal is to have families that span
Yeah.
both campuses, like,
Stagger makes
that's,
sense.
you have to have it. I think, like I said, to John's point with the tardies, I think it's like a 5 to 10 minute problem that you have right now, just the tardies. I mean, you've got other problems you're talking about with staff kids,
Yeah,
and so like, I
And
just
would
think
we-
the 7:30 start, if we can avoid putting high school kids and middle school kids in class at 7:30, like.
Do we think 15 minutes is gonna make a difference? I mean, I'm not.
No, but that's-
minutes.
I think if you started
Yeah.
elementary at 8 and high school at 8:30, I think that's a better.
Have we
scenario.
consulted
It
with
does.
any teachers and families on this? And can we? Should we? I feel like we should get some input before we do this.
Yeah, the
Well,
only,
we're definitely trying to solve problems.
Yeah.
I get it.
Because we wouldn't be bringing nobody likes change, we're very well aware, but if it wasn't an issue, we wouldn't be trying to find a solution, but
Right.
some good thoughts.
Yeah, like this is definitely a problem we need to solve, but I think having some buy-in and just feedback might be beneficial.
Good. And John, if I might, is it a 5 or 10 minute problem at secondary? Like what is the time gap you're seeing with students coming in late?
So it's twofold, right? It is about 15 minutes. If I can get 15 minutes would work. The issue then is if we don't change the kind of contract hours, I can't get my staff over to your campus
Yeah.
to make sure that we have the childcare issue. And what's happening right now is it's not fair because certain people are leaving and certain people are not. So I'm trying to be equitable in how I, treat everybody. And that was kind of a solution. Make sure if we can get everybody out on my campus early, and that's one of the reasons why we were doing 45 minutes to an hour, so they can be over to your campus to pick up the kids, and we wouldn't have that childcare issue. So it was trying to solve two issues, really, the tardy issue and then also a staff coverage for their children issue. So it was kind of trying to kill two birds with one stone.
Right. So 15 minutes in the morning would solve the morning problem, but not the afternoon problem.
It would solve the student problem, but then it would not solve the
staff problem.
The staff problem, right? That was what we were thinking.
And I guess I'm just concerned those students coming tardy because they're dropping off here, if we would end up losing those families because they can't get them here if those high schoolers not taking them.
Yeah. If they lose their ride, if the parent
It's not just the high schoolers, it's the parents that are
The parents.
trying to transport over.
There's maybe a handful of high school kids at most who drive their little kids, brother or sister to school.
Scope of what we're talking
I mean, look, I get it. I do it. We do it. Our family does it every day. And sometimes you get lucky and you hit car line. We try to get as early as car line as we can get, but I got 4 trying to get out the door, and it's not a simple task every day.
And so I probably have 20-ish kids that are chronically tardy. And, I don't feel comfortable holding them accountable to the code of conduct because of that car line situation. But technically we're out of compliance with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the amount of students, and I don't know exactly how many it is, but that are just dropped off early. So we do have kids just sitting outside.
Yeah.
Where?
So at the high
At
school.
the high
Yeah,
school.
because
Yeah.
their parents have to go to work
Right.
or they have to come over here. So they just drop off and go. So it is definitely an issue. We definitely can go back and look at times again. We can put out a thing to our staff and see what they say. And then, I don't mind putting out a survey to the parents as well.
Well, you're not gonna make everybody.
I know.
happy on
Yeah.
that, but, like, there's just not gonna,
Yeah.
I don't mean to be like Debbie Downer, but
Yeah.
everybody's gonna have their own individualized system of what
You
works for
invite
their family.
pitchforks out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And as Kathy said, it was not as coming at it as a like, oh my
I'll
gosh.
I'll hear it later after people watch this board meeting.
Yes,
For
like
that,
it is truly, we have issues that's been identified.
Yeah,
And it's kind of, how do we make all pieces fit together? Most importantly, kids are in classrooms learning.
I also, if I could also just kind of another story that I heard just 2 or 3 days ago, we have a student that primarily wants to move on to a traditional high school, moving into a very like 11th or 12th grade because they don't have the ability to go. They want to do a sport and their sports at the high school start at 2:45, 3 o'clock, and they don't even get out here until 3. They can't get over there on time. So, because our students are entitled to go over to their zone school for a sport or an activity. So we're going to lose a kid because of that. So again, it's kind of there's a lot of things that go into it. Yes, the primary discussion started because of the tardy, but there are lots of students who have to work, and they struggle to fit it all in, because if they get out at 3 o'clock, they don't get home till 3:30, 4 o'clock. They've got to go to work by 4. And then by the time they're done with their shift, that's 11 o'clock, and it's hard for them to do homework. So there's a lot of things going on at the high school.
So we definitely can go back to the table, the drawing board, and look at what's the best way to put out. To kind of just see what would be the best.
Yeah, they're getting out at 2:20, at 1 and 1:20, right, with the county. So like
starting at 7:20.
So
Yeah, they have a longer day, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, 30 minutes more.
Yeah.
I would not advocate for that.
We are meeting our minute.
But, I mean, like the other idea might be to just move that elementary time up just a smidge, right? Move the secondary back a smidge, and maybe find some middle ground there too. I don't know if there would be, it's an 8:10 to 8:40 situation here, so that we can go 8:25 to 8:35 there, right? Like, the devil's in the details on this now. Like, what are we really looking at? But if it gets our drop-off time a little bit closer for those families, so they're not having to sit for the 15 minutes, our high schoolers can go and do the things that they need to do, so they're not missing out on enrichment and activities. That's important.
Be good to, it would be good to see some data, just like what's the crossover that we currently have. Maybe if there's some projection on what that would look like in the next couple of years. I'm assuming that's going to keep getting bigger. That's what we want.
Right.
Just to know, like, what are we dealing with? And then if there are a couple of options, like, to me, sometimes change is hard to swallow, but if you have some alternatives, like I call them the list of bad ideas, show me the other bad ideas and be like, all right, this one's not so bad. Like, that's I always do. I always say you come with multiple options, show the bad ones first, then go, hey, here's a really not. What do you think about this one? Okay, it's not so bad compared to the other two crappy options you just showed me. But that's at least we know that we've looked at up multiple options and feel like this is the most feasible.
That still gives you theoretically enough time for planning purposes for next year.
Yeah.
If May is the approval time.
Yeah.
I mean, I just go back.
You have a board meeting in May, right?
Yeah.
We do.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
I just know when we wrote the charter for the school, like a lot of it, Kathy, you remember this was around, start times and the ideal learning environment and this,
The circadian rhythms,
circadian rhythm and all that.
Yeah.
And I hate it, that we have to push them to 7:30, but
Is that in our charter?
it doesn't say we have to do that, but that's like,
Part of the discussion.
there was just the reason of what made us, an alternate,
And we didn't have high school originally either, right? Like, but I mean,
no, but in our high school charter, when we wrote the
high
high school
school
charter, yeah.
And that's when we were planning on us all being in one lovely location.
I know. It was all supposed to be one campus so that we would
Yeah,
never have this
it
problem.
wouldn't be a problem then, yeah.
I know.
We need a monorail.
We need a boat.
A zip line.
On Elon to come do a boring tunnel with a high-speed hyper train.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that's the thing too.
He
We
likes
all have to
Montessori
play into minute. High school goes a lot longer. So really, we double almost our minutes that we need for K through 3.
Right.
So really, it's different. K through 3 is different from 4 through 8 on state mandated minutes. And then of course, high school is completely different. So I also have to make sure I'm getting that in there, maybe with how many seat minutes they have to have at the high school level. So we're not out of compliance on that. So, okay. I think, let me make sure, but I think that is it for me on all of the updates.
It's a full list for you this month.
I know, I'm trying to knock them all out.
Do we want to move back up to, I saw Kevin was on the public comment.
Unless you want to let Karen go, because she's.
Oh,
probably been in
Karen,
her
we can
hanging
do
out
that.
for a while.
Yeah, sorry, Karen.
And then we'll. let
Yeah, that
Karen
makes
go.
sense. Karen, you there? We can turn over to you for the PTO update.
Sorry. All right. So some of our PTO report has been shared, but that's okay. Let me park for a second. We were out at a Girl Scout meeting and play date and all the good things. So our Makers Market and movie night, our Makers Market and movie night was a huge success. We had 21 student makers selling. We needed a few more shoppers. Many of us parents ended up, taking home fun stuff. But it was great. And the movie was fun. We do have Teacher Appreciation Week coming up. It is planned for the 21st through the 25th. For all parents that may be listening on the call, prepare to volunteer. We have some fun, the good old stuff that the teachers love. We're bringing it back. Like the Zindan and the luncheon, but we have a couple new ways of celebrating them as well. But we definitely need volunteers and we definitely need donations. And so those have been posted on Parent Square for our primary and elementary students and families, and secondary is coming. So be on the lookout. We do have book fair coming up, as was shared. It is going to be hosted for primary and elementary students on Lakewood Avenue campus. It is the week following Teacher Appreciation Week. We also do need volunteers to support that, and we'll have a family night on May 2nd. Hope that families come out to shop and just to community build. And just to share, all of the profits that we make from this are going towards teacher professional development. That was something that I felt really passionate about. We had to cancel the one in the fall because of the storm and space, but we are moving forward with this one and we're hoping to break 10,000 in sales. I think the last time we held one on campus, if I remember, it was between 8,000 and 9,000. So I'm shooting for 10,000 so that we can get some funds for our teachers. And last thing is just gardening efforts are continuing on both campuses. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. And I just checked the sign up list. It looked like they were going well, but there's definitely still some opportunities on there. So bring your bagged snacks and nail polish and binders and all the fun stuff. So definitely I need to add my name.
Okay, is Kevin able to talk with us? Kevin, you there?
I'm here.
Hey, we were going to revisit the public comment policy. You sent us an email with some
I did.
thought. Yeah.
Well, you've all had plenty of time to review that by now. So public input is more or less required before a local government takes action at a meeting that's governed by the Sunshine Law. It's not actually that clear to me that rule requires charter schools to do the same thing, but it's certainly our philosophy to invite and consider public comment with respect to the things that we do. So local governments are given some guidelines in the Florida statute. The legislature has provided some guidelines on the sorts of regulations and rules that can be imposed around public comment. And the thing that I emailed to everyone prior to the meeting is sort of a pretty common set of rules that you'll see. I had in my file dozens of different policies that various sunshine boards that we work with had adopted. So this is sort of an average of those. But it's extremely common to see policies that provide for public comment being restricted for each speaker to have a certain amount of time, and then for a total time for the public comment period. It's very common for a public comment policy to provide for a time either at the beginning or end of a meeting where it's just sort of a free-for-all public comment for a limited amount of time. And then if anyone has input on a particular thing that's on the agenda, their comments would be invited when that agenda item is being considered, which makes sense because, you hear all the comments about one particular thing at the same time. And then finally, it's pretty common for boards, especially boards that have a lot of members of the public at the same meeting, to have some kind of either sign-up sheet or system where you fill out cards ahead of time or something like that, so that people can let you know when there's a big crowd which side of an issue they're on. And if it's impossible to allow everyone to speak just because of time constraints, the chair of the board can require people who are on the same side of an issue to appoint a representative to speak for them. So you'll see that a lot of times, maybe a union is coming to talk about a union issue, or maybe a group of neighbors is coming to talk about a development that's been proposed. In the school context, maybe a group of parents is coming to talk about whether they like the early start time or the late start time. So what I provided with you guys was something pretty vanilla. It doesn't have a lot of strict rules in it. It just talks about a 3-minute period for each speaker, and then a 45-minute period for each group of speakers, as to a particular issue. Very rarely have we hit a 45-minute mark, and usually once you've gotten to 45 minutes, you've heard what there is to hear, and it becomes repetitive after some point. If you want to know how many people agree with a certain position, you can ask them to raise their hands. The other thing that this does is provide for certain situations where public comment is not invited. That includes closed sessions, which are pretty rare. If we've been sued for something and our lawyer is going to give us advice on a lawsuit, that's a closed session. We don't invite public comment. That's one of the very few examples. Or maybe if we're having to take some emergency action where there isn't time to advertise and take public input. But in any event, this is a pretty basic policy. If we want to take another month and consider it, there's nothing wrong with doing that. We've lived without one for a while. But if you like what you see here, we could talk through it just for the benefit of everyone that's on the call right now and adopt it if we want to. So I know that I did not send this out with time to review it. So whatever you all want to do.
So Kevin, just to like recap the changes from what we currently have, is now we would keep the 3 minutes, but now we would add in this 45-minute max for a group to
Per topic.
per
Per topic?
Per topic.
Total.
Per topic.
Per topic.
That's a lot.
So right now, we only take public comment at the beginning of the meeting. We're not taking it at the agenda level. It's just never been necessary, but
We have, when it was there was a period of time where when there was a lot of public coming that we did take public comment when we got to that topic before we talked about
we maybe once
After
we
we
held
gave
off
our
and said hold your
feedback.
comment till we talk about this,
Right.
but
Yeah.
like that's not I'm just saying that's not typical. We've done that probably one time.
Right. I mean, is there some
We
flexibility?
probably
where-
had real public comment like less than 5 times since in the 9 years I've been in this.
Right.
So like
Yeah, Kevin, it seems to me
it's really like
from my
very
skim,
far and few between.
yeah, I would think that this would allow us to, in a situation where we needed it, say, okay, we know that there's a huge response to this. We're going to be extending, we can choose to extend those limits if we want to, right?
It's always flexible. You can always extend them if you want to.
Right.
And really, at the vast majority of the meetings that I've attended with you all, we haven't needed a policy like this one.
Yeah.
And if it's not being strictly followed and nobody raises a point of order, then, any objection to it's waived, right? So if you think we're not following the policy and you have a problem with it, speak up and we'll fall back on this policy and make sure it's being followed more closely. But under ordinary circumstances where 1 or 2 people have something to say about something that's important to them, nobody's going to cut them off at 3 minutes. This is
Right.
and it's kind of in the chair's discretion whether to either formally or informally extend that time. But I think this gives us something. You don't want to be adopting this the day that you need it. You want to have it done ahead of time.
I think it's a good good policy to have in place, and as long as we have that frame of mind, this is in the once a year, once every 2 years when there's a situation.
Every 3 years.
Yeah, like we can flex and make exceptions to extend or invite more time. Like I think that's reasonable to do.
Yeah, or even establish more formality around it. Like if we know it's going to be something where we believe a lot of people are going to come, then we can bring out the cards to have people sign up, and then, then we
Yeah.
can.
That's
take
where you
it
may
more.
want to, you may want to leverage some of this
Yeah.
policy, say, hey, like,
Yeah.
let's sign up. We'll at least
Yeah.
know how many people have the same opinion, and then
Right,
we
and
don't
then
have to,
it
we don't want to hear
communicated.
from everybody. We
Yeah.
can-
Yeah. And start enforcing volunteer hours.
That'll
That'll be the next one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I heard Brett's coming out with pitchforks for this. We'll start.
No, and not me coming out with pitchfork. I said just these are the kind of things that will invite the pitchforks. That's
Yeah.
all I'm saying. Pitchforks have been stuck in my throat a number of times.
Yeah, I would say let's move forward. I mean, I'm happy to make a motion that we go ahead and move forward with adopting the updated public comment policy.
Second.
All of those in favor?
Aye.
Any concerns? All right, motion carries. New public comment policy in effect. Thank you, Kevin, for spearheading that.
No problem.
More importantly, explaining it.
All right, so where are we at here? So that moves us to, do we have financial update? We have that as our next agenda item.
Kevin, do you want me to take the lead or Lily to take the lead or?
Yeah, I mean, just real quick, these are the financials from February, as was mentioned a few minutes ago. Sounds like we've just gotten our March ones. Just the timing we've chosen here, so we're looking at somewhat stale data. And I'll let Lily or Heather or both get into more detail on it, but my impression sitting through the finance meetings is that we're on track. We have our budget to actuals are appropriate for this time of year. We're looking for kind of a 60% spend as of February, and that's about where we are in all the major accounts. There was some additional expenditure due to hurricane repairs that we've been talking about over and over, but that's not happening anymore, so that's behind us now. And then the other document that's attached to the agenda is, Building Hope's analysis of our compliance with bond covenants with respect to the cash on hand and the coverage ratio for debt service coverage. And both of those are well above the minimums that are established by our trust indenture. There's always room for improvement. We'd love to have another $1 million in the bank, but we are, better this time than we were last time, and that's been true several meetings in a row. So that's a good thing. And if there's any details that Heather or Lily would like to add to that, or if there's any questions about my impressions, happy to respond to those as well.
Anything you want to add? I did include, just so you know, the minutes for the last committee meeting.
Well, basically on the notes that we took for the finance committee, we are at 69.47% for the year, which is positive given we are at 8 months of the fiscal year. And we should be seeing more revenue coming in within the next few months. Almost every department in the school is around 60% within the budget, which is what we were expected to finish Q3 with. And then as far as the bond covenant, we are 63 days on hand with a 1.68 ratio and a 12.57% cash reserve as a percentage of revenue.
What's our requirement again?
60.
60. And what's the ratio?
1
1 1
total and 10.
1 1
1.1.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good.
With our reserve, I know we had talked about it. Did we move that to, we have it in a money market right now where we're pulling more interest yet? Is that something that we have done where we've increased the quality of the savings account per se, right? To like to start making money on the money that we have.
Well, we did put money in there. I can't remember how much it was, but we're like at almost $500,000 on one of them.
Yeah.
Right now, the other thing is with CASA, they are holding about close to $1 million in that bank account. And so that is also one of the things that we're working with SFS before the fiscal year closes is to get all the percentages of everything we covered for them and transfer them over into IMO.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, so you do also have, I think the year I came in that summer, we also had that investment money. And so about every January, they send me an email and say, hey, you've made this much interest, please write us a letter to say, move it to this towards your bond.
Right.
And so we are continuing to do that. If I'm not mistaken, that was like 1.9 million that we put. Is that what that was? I have it written down, but that was done in 2023 that we had extra. So we're doing that as well.
Do we have to move it towards the bond? Can we hold it in an account? They won't.
I already have.
When you move it to the bond, what are we using it to
Pay
pay down?
Pay down.
We did 1.9 million and paid out? Or was it interest on 1 point?
It was interest on 1 point.
Okay.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
hoping,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that, you know, we can start moving more into our market.
Right,
accounts
because
in
it's
our
just getting a
savings
bigger
account.
percent. What is the percentage of that for right now that is it 5?
I think it's around there.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
And that's
For some reason I'm
locked
locked
in.
out of
Pretty
my
damn
card.
good.
That's
Yeah.
sign me up for that.
I know. That's why I wanted to
So
put
this
more
is
money
like
in
a
it.
no risk return.
Yeah, it's just a money market
Money
account
market.
that just gets a higher percent yield so that you're, you know, I mean, I think that's probably, as you're working with us at SSF,
SFR.
that one, I'm sorry, Jessica, I'm sorry. You know, like, we have money that we are saving. Where could we potentially invest some of this to, in low risk areas to maybe, you know, gain on that end, right? So that would be something too. I don't know, as you work with them in the conversation, just to open the door.
And that's what's great about them. They actually have on their team, somebody over every department. So there's somebody just over banks that works
Yeah.
through that with us. So they do all of the banking. So if we have questions about, hey, is Wells Fargo a good bank? Do we need to look?
Yeah.
Like they have that knowledge. So I think that's also the exciting part is they're individualized in that too in the department.
Yeah,
So
they
we-
have like their focus, you know, on different groups.
It's a
and-
bigger company, right? Like a
Yeah.
much bigger
And
group.
so-
that helps.
I've been meeting with them weekly. I don't know if they're tired of me yet, but
Yeah. She's still hanging
no,
on.
it's good.
How big is the company?
I think on our team is 6, 7 people. I don't know. She may be able to tell us.
We're actually a small company. We have about 20 employees. But we do have separate departments.
So,
But we assign about 5 people per client. So
well, if you want to help us grow our money, Jessica.
I will get you in touch with the right person.
Yeah.
I didn't write it down, like tell them tomorrow.
Oh, thank you for our money.
We have a lot of money. Let's grow it. Okay, that was my only question I had.
All right, that brings us to committee updates and board goals. What want to hit first?
Board goals. How many do we have now? What do we got? Are we at 7?
We're at 7.
7.
So Bash has been to this is her 4th board,
Mm-hmm.
so we can talk about next steps for her.
Moving forward with interview processes. Have you met with anybody individually yet, right? Except for you?
Yeah, she met with me. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can have you link up with
Yeah.
another board member as well.
Yeah, we'll set something up so we can just chit chat. That would be good. And then see how those go. And then we can move forward with an interview process.
Okay.
Because Mr. Pitchfork over there is done what, Jan? So
Yeah, July.
July.
I checked the dates. July.
yeah, they're sharp. We have to keep it light, otherwise, right? Like, what are we doing? Gotta keep it light. It's 8:26. I start to get delirious anytime after 8:10. So. All right, that works. And then there was the candidate who came on, who's on the meeting as well
Yes,
tonight.
this
So
is his
first meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
and I shared his resume.
He's an attorney.
Yes.
Okay. He's still here. It's like 2:30.
Oh, Simon, go to bed. Aren't you in Italy? Where's it?
France.
France.
I'm just want to get
Oh,
my
it's
feet
so
wet.
Right,
I just woke him up.
No, no.
We appreciate your
good.
commitment.
Yeah,
you.
but go to bed.
Go to sleep. All right, that works. So,
Good night.
Good night.
yeah, good night, Simon. Yeah, I'm happy to get something set up too, see with Simon here coming up, and then we can look at those. That would be good, maybe in the next month. Probably to really be a process, maybe more so in May's gonna fly by, so maybe a June situation for looking at candidates adding in to fill spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I would anticipate probably being done in June.
You wouldn't?
I would.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's,
I heard I wouldn't.
I would anticipate me being done in June. I think that's realistic.
Gotta do it in June, then I'll take in July. All right, so that works there. Financial outlook looks good. We're talking about some succession planning, so we did not talk about succession planning. We probably need to think about some succession planning. You guys have started doing some stuff for anything yet?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we probably need to
Okay.
set up some time where we look at all of the things that secretary moves in to do and what that looks like, and then I mean, and maybe even think about too, like aspiration goals, right? Where would you see yourself, and how do you want to support the board, that kind of thing, moving forward. Time commitments and all that jazz, skill level, knowledge base, right? So we can talk about that too. I think that would be good. Might be some, but I think definitely some just knowledge base on procedures and training. So probably good. We're gonna have a VP spot opening in June. All right, I told you I'm dragging, I apologize. All right, here we go, looking through there, that, I think we're good for the goals. Committees, did you want to talk about your board event? Share
Sure.
that information, I know you shared it out, a little video and on Facebook and stuff, that was cute.
Yeah,
fun.
so we had a donor appreciation event on March 28th. Stephen, Heather, were there. Yeah, and a shout out to the PTO as well. I don't know if Karen's still on. She collaborated with me on that too, to also invite some business owners that support the PTO. Like 4 of those came. And so I shared a little bit of the pictures of the event, but we did pack the room. We were at maximum capacity, some standing room in the back. I thought it went really well.
Where'd you have it?
Total Wine. Yeah, so if you remember, Total Wine gave us a donation of a 20-person wine tasting. So we just had to tag on the extra 10 and then food. So it was a substantial savings and,
Well worth it. Yeah, we
Yeah.
could have even purchased that event, really, to be honest, like, and sold tickets for it. It was just so well done. And the organization and the layout of everything. I mean, it was fun. It was just a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
I think people really liked it. Yeah, so it included, like, they allowed us to have our own agenda, so I had like a thank you message. Stephen in the middle had a discussion about the future of IT and the tools and the being Apple certified, and then Heather had a closeout at the end. And then in between that, they were going through 8 different wines from Italy.
Yeah, we traveled to Montessori's home. And
Yes.
the wine that comes from her home
Region, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
delicious.
Yep, and we had a build your own pasta bar from Olive Garden and sorbets from Costco that people really
that I have
loved.
stocked with my freezer.
You already got it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, like 2
Yeah.
times. Kids
Yeah.
crawl through those things. They love them.
Yeah, so there's some pictures in the public comment area if you want to see. And then also I posted a video of it.
Yeah, the video was great. Well, thank you for doing that, Marissa. That was a lot of extra, and Stephen and Heather and everybody put time into that. It was a lot of extra work, but
And
just-
shout out to Carla. She also helped,
yeah,
picked up food and helped in planning.
so important. Just I think recognize those big donors, right? Like, you know, we have people that put a lot of time and energy into our school, but it was valuable to recognize those that are donating to our school every single month. It's just part of their normal finances. So we really do appreciate that that financial support as well. So thank you for everybody who has donated.
And okay, you have another committee.
Yeah, I've got the grant writing committee. So we do have some updates from this past month. So Jennifer Walker, who's on the call, did a wonderful job getting the Bloom and Grow grant approved and spent out, and she was able to work through the whole process for the first time of having these cards to buy, because you have to very specifically, block out what you're buying and for what purpose. We did also notice that there had been a request over from the high school. Michelle Kraus was looking for help writing a grant as well. And there were several folks who had volunteered, even, outside of our committee. So we're going to track them down, and no, I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, we discussed possibly shifting the focus of our committee a little bit. Because Jennifer had expressed that there were some, sometimes if you get a grant, like if we just apply for grants and get them, but don't have a teacher who's sponsoring it or someone who's like actually going to use it, then it can be a challenge. Then you've got this grant money and not, you don't have that clear path to say, okay, here's your money. Now you can do your program. So I think that, over the next couple of months, as we're winding down with school, we're going to really work on building ourselves up as a resource where like we can have a grant playbook. And then when someone finds something and they're like, oh, I heard about this, or, oh, I have a need, then we can really be there as a support team. And then, if someone says, okay, I want to apply for this grant, we can say, okay, pass me your mission statement and your project. And we've got everything we need here that we can just help you get that out the door.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can we put that on the board's website piece as a place where they can sign up for that, like a Google form of some sort right there on the board governance site? So that way it's going to come to you right away, you'll see what that information is.
I love it. Yeah. And I'd love to have a spot where it's, you don't just need to have a grant that you want to apply for. You could have an idea of something you want to do. Yeah. If you've got, if you say, hey, I'd really love some money for these supplies, then we can help. But then at least we've got that real specific purpose, and we're not like, great, we got $1,500 now.
Yeah.
What do I do with it? So that, I think that'll probably be a shift for next year.
Right.
On the hurricane front, speaking of hurricane damage, I've got a friend at Akoe now. So I'm going to chase this until like the end of my life. It's just a matter of principle now. So, the FEMA deadline is come and gone. It has been suggested to me that for the future, if there's ever another need where we have to apply for FEMA money, we just do it, assume that we're not going to get $1 from insurance, apply for it. And, by the time you hear from insurance, then, you can tell FEMA if they magically paid for it. So that'll be my plan going forward. And I highly recommend it for anyone else who may be doing this in the future. So lesson learned on that. However, I did find out about a different FEMA program called the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. So that may be a potential. Apparently it's more involved. But I'm going to go for it. And we're going to see if maybe we can get some of the damages paid back, or even like if there's other stuff, Stephen, that you think would be beneficial for us to do in between. It seems this is not tied to a specific emergency event. So it could be something where we can like use it so I'll connect with you and we can.
I will never turn down grant money.
Yeah. So if there's anything lingering, I have only read through it a little bit, but I will see if we can try to get coverage from the money that we've already spent out, or at the very least, if there's anything that we should be doing to enhance our property for the future against future storms. So so that's all my grant stuff. Still love to help out with your Apple stuff, so hit me up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and one plug for these committees, I mean, we meet at night, so we definitely need more help. I know Carla's not here, but like we would love to have more help with the fundraising development. So we're talking about opportunities for parents to put in their hours. This is a Zoom after work opportunity.
And my committee's a lunchtime Zoom one, and we're very flexible. So if you want to join but aren't available during the time you see we meet, just give a shout.
Yeah, I can always work on a project.
Yeah, oh yeah,
It's a very
totally, absolutely.
project-based, that
Yes.
would be a great way, yeah.
And that was a wonderful thing that came out of the donor event was I got to talk to so many of our families in our community who just want to come with ideas.
Yeah.
And that's what's so great about being a part of this organization as a whole. Everybody's got great ideas. There is not a monopoly on good ideas. So bring them to us
Yeah.
and let's grow together.
Absolutely. Awesome. That just leave executive? Yep. So just to keep everybody looped in, right? We are still meeting as an executive team to make sure that we have a strong leadership in place for the school. Working with Heather and looking at what that structure is, looking at positions within our leadership to support the process. Alicia has been so kind to help sit in on some interviews with me. So we've been really getting to know some good community members who are hoping to be part of our team. So we're loving to see that from within the state, from outside the state. We love people from outside the state. So we find some good ones that way. So as soon as I have more information, I will let the community know, but we are definitely looking at what we can do to really strengthen the Montessori support within the school. Within that might even be an additional position within our leadership model. So hopefully we will be able to find some support there overall for the team and make sure that we are still supporting the process. So more information to come, but it is in the works.
Thank you, Susan.
That's it. Nothing else?
Guess I will call it to order.
Yeah, 8:40. Enjoy your evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming in and spending time with us. It's a late one. I apologize to you. So it was a long day. Have a great night.